Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are Above Replacement Radio. And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. We have reached the halfway point of the regular season. Each team has crossed game number 81 off of their schedules, which I don't know. It feels like the regular season is going a lot faster than it normally does, even though it's literally not. But tomorrow is July. Tomorrow is Bobby Bonilla Day. Very exciting. But we do have some positive Mets news. Even if they lost yesterday and today, they finished the month of June, I believe, at 16-7 was their record. Best record in the National League. Brought themselves back into the National League wildcard race.
Yeah, indeed. And I think they lost on June 1st, so they've won 16 of their last 22 as of Sunday. Yeah, they have they've definitely been, bringing back the spirits in Queens. I know it's like it's kind of just common practice to be negative about the Mets and laugh at the Mets, but they've had a good month for themselves. I'm sure everyone knows the lore. We don't have to get fully into the whole, grimace and everything that's surrounding that.
Yeah,
and,
the grimace Mets, the gay Mets, the OMG Mets, they've had so much on their side over the last month. And
this month could be like a 30 for 30 doc for the New York Mets.
Especially when literally May 29th was the Jorge Lopez incident where he threw his glove into the stands. Like, that doesn't feel like the same season.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
I saw a tweet being like, I wonder if Netflix regrets picking the Red Sox instead of the Mets.
You're right.
Because if the Mets were getting the Netflix doc, like, it's already, like, the stage is already set no matter what happens from here on out. Like, there's already so much content that could have been gotten from that.
Yeah, the rest, as they would say, would be gravy, just any it would just be Larian on top. It could end at this point. I think that's how it would be. Like how Fever Pitch was not supposed to be about a World Series team.
Right. It was supposed to be like Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, it was supposed to just kind of end, at the end of the regular season, but no, it actually ended at the end of the World Series.
Sometimes I watch that clip and I'm reminded that Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore were actually on the field with the Red Sox in 2004.
Yeah,
which is just the most comical thing ever.
Yeah, it's so hilarious, but I'll stand firmly in the minority of actually enjoying that movie.
No, I do too. I mean, like, it's fine for what it is. I don't consider it like a great baseball movie, like in terms of like the actual like cinematography. It's just an incredibly stereotypical Red Sox movie.
Yeah, I think we needed that. I think we needed that. But
imagine in 2016, if they made a similar type of movie for the Cubs and they just had two, I don't know, who would be like 2016 like comparison celebrities to Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore that would have been on the field with like Bryant and Rizzo.
I don't know, because I don't think Jimmy Fallon was really all that big back in 05.
No, I don't, like, it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is.
But imagine if the Cubs win that extra inning game in Game 7, like everything that had happened leading up to that victory, the rain delay and everything, and just having two celebrities
like Zendaya's out there.
Yeah, Zendaya and Tom Holland. I don't know.
Yeah,
they're just out there with the Cubs.
That would be pretty hysterical.
But that was what happened for the Red Sox. That was a real thing in St. Louis.
A real thing. Yeah. Shout out to Fallon and Barrymore. But the New York Mets are living out a movie right now. It's but yeah, unfortunately dropped the last two. However, yeah, it's just been overall positive in the month of June. And is largely because of their offense, it seems.
So I have some notes on the offense. Coming into today, throughout the month of June, they were slashing 290, 363, 517, for a 152 weighted runs created plus, which is pretty remarkable over a calendar month for an entire team.
Yes, yes, indeed. And yeah, since June 2nd coming into today, they had 6 qualified hitters. All of them had OPSs over 800. No one's particularly like carrying the lineup. It's a real collective effort. You look up and down. You got Brandon Nimmo with a 963 OPS since June 2nd coming into today. Francisco Lindor's at a 923 OPS. Harrison Bader 833. Mark Vientos 867. JD Martinez 884, and Pete Alonso at 825. And he's doing great, but he's actually the worst OPS among Mets qualifiers in the month of June, funnily enough. But
It
but
is
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. But yeah, it seems like the offense is going. I think with Lindor and Nimmo particularly, the BABIP gods are now with them again instead of against them, like they were the first 2 months of the season. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, I think we kind of saw this in the Mets. I'm sure if you asked the two of us where we thought the Mets would be before the season, we'd probably say around 500. And
Yeah.
everything's kind of balanced out, and they're around 500, which isn't a bad spot to be in the NL wildcard race.
It's definitely not a bad spot. Just to go off of your no one is really carrying, but everyone's doing well. The Mets have 11 hitters in the month of June that have tallied at least 25 plate appearances and have a weighted runs created plus above 125. Not just 100, 125. Luis Torrens, Francisco Alvarez, Jose Iglesias, Brandon Nimmo, JD Martinez, Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos, Pete Alonso, Tyrone Taylor, Starling Marte, and Harrison Bader. 90% of all of the team's plate appearances throughout the month of June have gone to players with at least a 125 weighted runs created plus. 90% of the team's plate appearances. That is pretty remarkable. They also lead the majors in barrel rates in this month at 11.5% barrel rate per barrels per batted ball, that is. And they have the fourth highest average bat speed throughout this month as well.
Yeah, that is yeah, that's very interesting for sure, for sure. Yeah, so it seems like especially with that barrel rate, that means that, some of this to a degree is sustainable. And
Mhm.
it does seem like they actually have been good. It's not just the results that have been good. It's been underlying stuff as well. And it makes me kind of curious where they're at with expected numbers, because I imagine their expected numbers would be.
I know they were high up in like average exit velocity in like I think it was line drive rate as well. I searched a couple of things. Yeah, any like major offensive metric in terms of batted ball data, they're towards the top of the league. So
Yeah,
uh
since June 2nd, they have the highest expected WOBA.
mhm.
Let's check to see if they hit on all the expected numbers, but highest expected WOBA, which is probably the most
That's the
precise
one.
expected stat,
Yeah. That is
is
strikeouts, walks, and quality of contact.
right, right. Expected batting average is they are fourth, which does not matter as much, obviously. Expected slugging, we are gonna see where they're at. I imagine they're near first, as Firefox takes a little bit to load. They're second in expected slugging. So I imagine their walk rate must be collectively pretty good. Um, oh yeah, it definitely is. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
June 2nd. Um, yeah, June 2nd, since June 2nd, their walk rate was 9.2%, and that is seventh in baseball.
pretty good.
So yeah, it seems like everything's going all around. Like when you're walking more, you're hitting the ball harder, you're getting more barrels. These results are going to come, and that's what's been benefiting the Mets for the month of June.
It's not just the offense, but it's the musical performances as well. I feel like we need to talk about this Jose Iglesias thing from that was I mean, look, if you're gonna look me in the face and tell me that you don't want something like that from your team, like I don't know who you are, what you're talking about.
I mean, everyone was having fun, and that's something I took joy from, that's for sure.
So if you're unaware, on Friday nights, the Mets beat the Astros to get above 500 for the first time all season, but also win, I believe, their 16th out of 20 in total. So I mean, they had the hottest team in the league, and they had just won another game, and it was a Friday night. Jose Iglesias, I did not know this until Friday, but this has actually like been a thing. Jose Iglesias is like a music writer. Like he writes songs, he produces them, sings them. He's a musical artist, and he released a new single on Friday called OMG. And I was at work Friday and saw like a clip on Twitter of Mets players like sing along to the song with him. And I didn't realize it was his song. I thought it was kind of just like what the Phillies had with Dancing on My Own. It was just, oh, the Mets have a song that they picked up and claimed as theirs, and that's going to be like their rally song. And I realized what it actually was. And after Friday night's game, Jose Iglesias got out in full uniform at second base and started like performing the song on like the Citi Field speakers. The entire crowd was still there. The entire Mets team was on the first baseline, like dancing along with him. They all came out to second base with him. It's something that it's straight out of a Savannah Bananas game is what I said. And you know, it's the perfect time to do something like that, right? You can't do that when the team's not going well. You can't do it if you didn't win that night. Like all of the stars had aligned for that to happen so perfectly on the day that the song had released, and it was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was hard to believe that it was real whenever you were watching it for the first time. But yeah, it's I mean, he's a pretty standard, like in a standardly good way, just a good good musical artist, it seems. It's a
I was just
catchy
saying
song.
the song's good. I don't understand many of the lyrics, but it's good.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cool that he has an extra passion like that, but yeah, I mean, shout out to yeah, shout out to him for that. I mean, I don't really yeah, I don't really have too much to say other than like it's great that the timing worked out, that the team's doing well at this time and he's able to go and do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the major thing to hit on is just how insane it is that the thing that I always say about baseball is you can watch it your entire life and continue to see things that you've never seen before. And I'm gonna go ahead and assume nobody has seen what we saw at Citi Field on Friday night. A player on the team performing his own song to a sold out crowd as if it's a concert
Right.
after a game in full uniform with the whole team with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
it's ridiculous, but it's insanely fun. Vibes are immaculate at Citi Field. And again, like you can't tell me that you wouldn't want that on your own team because for that to happen, your team has to be good. They have to be winning. People have to be having fun.
I mean, I'm excited for this to happen again with some random person. First of all, but
Yeah.
yeah, it requires a lot of things to go right because there is the factor that the team has to be good and doing well and win that game, but also you have to have a player that's also a musical artist, and there aren't too
Yeah.
many out there right now.
The thing that I thought about was like, this is what I imagine when people that talk down on analytics by saying that there's intangibles that they can't measure. This is what I imagine they're talking about. I want to believe that when Steve Cohen and David Stearns signed Jose Iglesias to a minor league contract this year, they were taking into account that he writes songs and he's going to release a song at the perfect point in the season. They're going to win a game and he's going to perform it and the vibes are going to be so up at Citi Field.
Yeah, I mean, his 83.8 mile per hour average exit velocity in 2022 cannot tell you what he's going to do with team chemistry and how it's not going to project how many songs he releases. It'll project
No.
offensive success, but it won't project his musical success, nor that musical success's ability to reignite the Mets.
But as a bonus, he also has had offensive success this season with the New York Mets.
That is
He is
true.
hitting. I mean, he's only played 17 games and had 39 plate appearances, but he's hitting 389 with an 880 OPS and a 160 OPS plus.
Yeah, that is
So it's not like this is just coming from some complete nobody. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah, it is very cool. It is very cool. So yeah, shout out to the Mets. Anything more on the Mets before we move on to Houston?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the Mets, we mentioned that they lost the last two games of this weekend. You can point, you can say, oh, this is where the downfall begins, but you could also say they were playing the other hottest team in the league, which is the Houston Astros. Um, in 2005, we talked about, or well, not in 2005, but we talked about the 2005 Houston Astros and mentioned how in early June, the Houston Chronicle pronounced them dead on the front page of the sports section was a giant gravestone that said "R.I.P. Astros," and they went on to because they were like 12 games under 500 at that point, and they went on to make a World Series run. And I think a lot of people were trying to pronounce the Astros dead this year because they've been alive for very long, and a lot of people just desperately want it. But the Astros are still alive and well. They won 7 in a row this week. They've won 9 of their last 10 after taking 2 out of 3 from the Mets this weekend. And since June 18th, they have made up 6.5 games on the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, that is something else. And it has been their success is similar to the Mets in that it has been mostly from offense, particularly. I believe, or yeah, in the span heading into Sunday, they had won 7 out of 8 games before then, but now 8 out of 9 games. Their OPS ranked 4th, average probably ranked top of the line because they were hitting 311. I will say their BABIP is kind of off the charts. They are BABIPing um the heck out of their opponents. So there's obviously maybe a lack of sustainability with this offense. However, it's been working for them, and it may be something where it's just evening out from previously in the year. I'm not sure what it looked like before. But yeah, it's not even, I mean, their luck I mean, yeah, they're not even the luckiest team in baseball with WOBA and xWOBA. I know that. I'm trying to look at batting average and expected batting average, but so maybe that BABIP is just because of skilled hitting. Fourth luckiest difference in batting average and expected batting average. But yeah, I mean, there still has to be some skill involved for them to succeed. I'm sure their expected batting average is pretty high in this stretch as well.
You got to give some credit to the starting rotation because, when we think of why people were considering the Astros dead, it was because the rotation was looking very bleak. I believe Verlander just went down again with an injury. And the Javier went down with Tommy John. I think it was Urquidy got announced to have Tommy John again. But Hunter Brown, who had like a 10 ERA at some point this year after a few starts, casually is rocking an 0.75 in his last only 2 starts, but 282 FIP in that time as well. So he's been, and his success goes far beyond his last 2 starts. That's just what I have pulled up right here. But he's been a major piece for that rotation, looking like an ace, to be honest. To give you an exact number, dating back to May 28th, he has made 6 starts. And from then, he has lowered his ERA from 6.39 to 4.37. He has a 1.22 ERA and a 2.58 FIP over his last 6 starts. Hunter Brown, kind of the pitching prospect that this develop to have any hope for this year and beyond. And they've been seeing it.
Yeah, he was the guy I think people were excited could, be the potential, new Astros guy that they get for cheap control for a while.
The heir to Justin Verlander, so to speak.
Yeah, and also, be similar to Javier and Valdez in that, they were able to find a guy and develop him well and, potentially have him for at least, pre-free agency and whatnot and potentially extend him if he works out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the responsibility for why they were unsuccessful was their rotation, and it seems like they're not really in the way right now.
No, it absolutely, yeah. And Jordan's been cooking lately as of the last few weeks as well. They were kind of struggling to get him going, but since June 3rd, he has played in. Please hold because Baseball Reference is taking a while to load. His OPS has gone from 857 to 892 since June 3rd. He has, I believe, the 6th highest weighted runs created plus among qualifiers. He has a 1083 OPS in his last 19 games.
Yeah.
So he's cooking again.
Yeah, and in the previous 8 games heading into Sunday, where they'd won 7 out of 8, Jake Myers was having great success. I think he was definitely getting a bit lucky and significantly lucky. But 1147 OPS in the previous 8 games heading into Sunday. Yordan Alvarez with a 1090 OPS. I'm sure that's less luck involved and more skill involved. Jose Altuve with a 970 OPS. He was slumping for a little bit, but I think is coming back around, evening out. Yainer Diaz, he also was hitting a bit of a slump, but he has a 901 OPS in his last 8 games heading into Sunday. So yeah, not a whole lot of weak points in the lineup. And it seems like whoever's doing or whoever should be doing well is doing well. And there's also some guys who maybe were under the radar who are, coming up and helping the lineup out.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and yeah, Kyle Tucker's out, and they're still able to succeed in this way. So, it'll be interesting when he comes back because
Yeah,
he was having a career year. It's kind of a bummer that he had to go in the IL for a little bit.
yeah, he had
Um,
already made it to I think 3.3 F4
yeah,
in the first like
yeah.
2 months of the season. This hot streak has also coincided with the Mariners going 3-7 in their last 10. They dropped a series to the Minnesota Twins at home today. The Mariners were up 10 games in the AL West on June 18th. We are recording on June 30th, and it's now 3.5 games. So the AL West, in the blink of an eye, is a race again.
Yes, yes, indeed. And we were always kind of anticipating it, but not necessarily fully predicting it because there just wasn't much to base that off of other than
Hmm.
just vibes and knowing how successful the Astros have been in the past. But yeah, it's happening. I'm sure they both have a very similar strength of schedule remaining. So I wouldn't look too deep into that. But yeah, it's kind of long overdue that the Astros would get to 500 and now above 500. So yeah, it seems like they finally caught up. And it's just a matter of when they stop rolling like this because
Yeah.
it seems like it's going to be hard to stop them for now.
The Mariners are also just a very streaky team. They started out 4-8. Uh, you know, they lost 8 of their first 12, and then they found their way up to they found their way like well beyond 500, and then they were like running away with the division, and now they're falling behind again. They have to play. Their strength of the schedule is pretty interesting coming up. They just finished up with the Twins, playoff caliber team. They have to bring the Orioles in next week, which will be pretty tough for them. And then they have Seattle. They have Toronto coming in, which is going to feel at times like a road series for them because Toronto travels very well to Seattle because like the Vancouver area is very close. There's a lot of people in throughout all of Canada that root for the Blue Jays for various reasons. Padres come in, the Angels come in for 4. Probably the weakest team on this part of the schedule, and then they bring in Houston, and then it's late July. So yeah, a very important stretch coming up for the Seattle Mariners. Obviously, it hasn't gone well so far, but they could really make a statement in this Orioles series.
Yeah, right, right, right. Yeah, there's definitely some momentum that can be changed and yeah, just breaking down what what's been going on with the Mariners and Astros. You mentioned the game difference, but in terms of the division odds, since June 19th, the Mariners have gone from an 82% chance of winning the division according to Fangraphs down to now a 60%, and the Astros have gone from 14% to 37%. So a lot changing in 2 weeks, and we could see more of that, especially considering, we know what the Astros are capable of when they're hot, and we know just how deep that success runs within that organization. So yeah, it's we could be talking about them in the middle of something. Maybe we're talking about them at the end of something, but yeah, it's they're always, as we say with a lot of teams or a lot of players, they're just kind of inevitable.
Yeah, it absolutely does feel that way, both on the Astros and Mariners ends. We've seen the Mariners. The offense has been, I think, a particular source of these struggles, and that's kind of usually just how it goes with the Mariners. When they're struggling, you can expect the offense to be at the forefront of it. And they haven't gotten a lot of production from guys like Julio Rodriguez, guys like Cal Raleigh as much as they wanted this year. Um, but since June 19th, which is when this stretch started, They're hitting 189 as a team, with a 73 weighted runs created plus and a 30.9% strikeout rate. That is the highest in the majors. Um, looking more specifically into it with weighted runs created plus. Dom Canzone's been their best hitter at 124 weighted runs created plus. They have a couple other guys hovering 100, but below 60 is Mitch Garver, who unfortunately left the game injured today after getting hit by a pitch at 57 weighted runs created plus. Josh Rojas with 31 plate appearances at 42 weighted runs created plus. Mitch Haniger, 19 plate appearances, 42 weighted runs created plus. Ty France at 37. Jorge Polanco at 31. Julio Rodriguez with negative 17 in his last 37 plate appearances.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, that is rough. But luckily for Julio Rodriguez, July is coming, so he might actually start hitting well.
I was gonna say he needs to do the home run derby again. By the
Yeah.
way, there's we got some home run derby breaking news tonight. I don't know if you got a chance to see any of that.
Oh, yeah, I did not. What was going on?
So a couple things. One, hold on, that is a home run by Wyatt Langford. He is 4 for 5 in this game. The Rangers are now up 11-2 on the Orioles. Anyway, so Gunnar Henderson was mic'd up tonight on baseball on Sunday Night Baseball, and he revealed that he's going to be competing in the home run derby this year in Texas. So he is the first. He is the first confirmed member of the home run derby field, which is pretty exciting. I feel like Gunnar Henderson is definitely a guy that people were anticipating would maybe do it. I'm sure a lot of people were hoping to see. He's really broken out and become an MVP candidate this year. Definitely a power surge for sure. But there's going to be some new rules for the home run derby this year. I'm trying to find the breakdown. So the first round is going to be they're getting rid of the bracket style for the entire thing. The first round is just all 8 hitters go. The top 4 advance, and there's a tiebreaker that is broken by the longest home run in the first round. So it looks like swing offs are most likely not a thing in the first round, unless 2 people hit a 484-foot homer exactly or whatever. The semifinals is bracket style. It's 4 versus 1, 3 versus 2 in terms of home run total, and the final is just the top 2 face off. But the real rule changes, this is something that MLB has kind of teetered with over the last decade or so, is the actual format of the rounds. So it is a 3-minute timed round with 1 timeout, which is, as per usual, but you only get 40 pitches. So there is a limit on how many pitches can actually be thrown. I looked up Julio Rodriguez's first round last year, where he hit, I believe, like 34 home runs in the first 3 minutes of it before the bonus time and the swing off with Pete Alonso, and his pitcher threw 46 pitches. So it might not take down the level of the quickness of it too much, but I think a lot of people had been complaining about how little time there is between pitches. So it sounds like that's kind of what people are doing. 3 bonus outs, which means every swing is a home run or an out. What am I trying to see there? 3 bonus outs. Every swing is a home run or an out. I don't know. Oh, I don't know what that one means. I'm trying to interpret that. And then a 425-foot home run in the bonus period. Oh, okay. You get 3 bonus. I guess you get 3 bonus swings or something. And if you hit a 425-foot home run in bonus period, you earn a 4th bonus out. Okay. And then in the finals, it's 2 minutes, 27 pitches, 1 timeout, same bonus rules apply. All right, I need some clarification on the bonus rules, but point is they're keeping it timed, but sort of without putting in a direct rule, they're putting in a pitch limit, so to speak. Because the rule used to be you have to wait until the previous ball lands, but then they kind of let it slide a little bit, and then they just said forget it. And if you watch the 2015 home run derby and compare it to even 2019, they were technically using the same rules, but you could see progressively how much less they cared about said rule.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the Frazier one, they were actually waiting for the ball to land, and then I remember as early as 2018 with Harper, it would just be back to back to back pitch, pitch
Yeah.
after pitch after pitch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean that's very
I feel
interesting
like
to
I'll
learn.
have to wait until the actual Derby to give my thoughts because I do enjoy the timed rounds a lot better than the the you get X number of outs because no offense, but the home run derby was kind of a lot more boring when it was guys taking 10 pitches in a row and then swinging at one.
Yeah,
I like that you kind of force guys to swing at as much as they can
yeah,
because I think it leads to more home runs. I mean, it has, right? Like how many times have we? Where does Josh Hamilton even rank now in terms of most home runs in a round? Like it's been broken at least like 3 times.
yeah, exactly. I mean, Vladdy's broken it. Julio Rodriguez has broken it, and like
Pete's broken it. Jock broke it.
guys who have not even won the rounds have broken that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like it's a completely different game. By the way, like I always just love like I tweeted this recently, but like anytime I saw a take of someone being like they need to bring back the old home run derby format with the outs instead of the timer, it's only the Josh Hamilton round from 2008. And it's like I get it, it was awesome when Josh Hamilton did that, but like the literal previous year, Vladimir Guerrero won the home run derby with 3 home runs in the finals under the same system. And most of the derbies were closer to 2007 than Josh Hamilton 2008.
Yeah, it's the Bartolo Colon home run of
Yep,
home run derby rounds.
for sure. It's like we need pitchers hitting because look at that one moment.
Look at that one moment that will never ever be recreated.
Yeah.
It will only cause harm to these players.
hmm One
Um,
thing we didn't touch on this, but like one thing that you got to appreciate about Mets fans is that they were capable of making Bartolo Colon look like a likable person,
True. Yeah.
like in an incredible way. Like Bartolo Colon, when you uncover the mask of Big Sexy, like not exactly the most likable person with some of the things that have been reported with his PED suspension and some other things as well. But I mean, Mets fans made him look like Jesus Christ, and we all played along with it for so many years, and many people still do.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Indeed. Yeah, they made him a bit of an icon, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, anything more before we head into players to highlight here?
let's talk some how about that. So let's talk some slightly alarmings, and then we'll get into some Savant trivia.
Sounds good. And now we will advance to players to highlight, where we will start with the lows so we end with the highs. But yeah, we will get into our Sunday, June 30th, 2024 edition of Slightly Alarming Statistics. He's been barreling up the ball way less.
He's not missing bats. He's not getting the ball on the ground, and people are hitting it in the air more.
It's been so bad. He is getting a
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, so for my slightly alarming, this isn't a talk of shame because I didn't have this guy as a player to highlight or as a player to watch this season, but I was very high on him. I'd say higher than most would have been with my positional rankings. I didn't put him in my top 50, but I put him pretty ambitiously, I would say, on my positional ranking for him. It's Ke'Bryan Hayes from the Pittsburgh Pirates. I put him number 7 on my third base list. I put him above Nolan Arenado, and he's not making me look good right now. Since June 7th, he is slashing 167, 191, 227, 418 for a 15 weighted runs created plus and minus 0.3 F4. Among the 177 qualifiers in this span, he ranks third lowest in OBP, fifth lowest in OPS, and fourth lowest in weighted runs created plus. Now, this is obviously a really bad span for him, but it kind of goes along with just a generally bad season that he's having so far at the plate. He is hitting 232 with a 606 OPS this year. His average exit velocity has dropped from 92.2 miles per hour in 2023 to just 88.4 miles per hour in 2024. That is the lowest drop between years among the 180 qualifiers in average exit velocity. So he has had the steepest decrease. Ke'Bryan Hayes' ground ball rate has also risen from 42% last year to 51.7% this year. And his fly ball rate has dropped from 26.2% to just 15.3%. His 9.7% ground ball rate increase is tied for the 5th highest increase on that same list of 180, and his 10.9% decrease in fly ball rate is the 3rd lowest decrease. So he is more than many other hitters in baseball hitting the ball not as hard, hitting it on the ground more, and hitting it in the air less. Ke'Bryan Hayes doesn't strike out a lot though, which is nice. His strikeout rate is 19% this year, but for some reason, he has a 22.7% strikeout rate against sinkers, which is one of the easiest pitches to make contact with. The league average strikeout rate on sinkers is only 13.7%. Hayes is 22.7%. He has 44 plate appearances that have ended against sinkers this year. He is hitting 073 and slugging 098 against them. His negative 11 run value against sinkers is tied for the worst that any hitter in the majors has against any pitch, which is really, really bad. Among the 294 hitters with at least 25 plate appearances ending on sinkers, Ke'Bryan Hayes ranks last in average. He ranks third worst in slugging, second worst in WOBA with a 122, sixth worst in put away percentage at 34.5%, third worst in expected batting average at 174, last in expected slugging at 229, last in expected WOBA at 203, and second worst in run value per 100 at minus 5.2. So he has been the worst sinker ball hitter pretty much in the league this year. The reason that one of the reasons that I was high on Hayes this winter was because of his defense and his exit velocity. And the defense has still been very good. It's actually not quite to the same level as it has been, but he's still in the 86th percentile of outs above average. But what I had said is if he had just learned to pull the ball and, was able to convert a lot more of his fly balls into home runs, of course, a 26% fly ball rate, like I mentioned last year, he was going to be a superstar caliber player. I saw a 5 to 6 win season out of him. And I said that because his pull rate was only 27% last year, which is very low. Well, now it is 22.2%, the second lowest among the 204 hitters with at least 150 batted balls. And even when he does pull the ball, 70% of his pulled batted balls this year have been ground balls. The league average is 54.6%. He is at, to be exact, 69.2%, so very close to 70%. In 2023, Ke'Bryan Hayes had a pulled fly ball rate of 4.8%, and this year it is 1.7%, the third lowest on the aforementioned list of 204. So Ke'Bryan Hayes has proven many offensive facets, and for that reason is my slightly alarming.
Yeah, Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Slightly alarming.
And yeah, I was definitely optimistic about him as well coming into the year. I had him in the top 10. And yeah, what's funny is what I was optimistic about is our category, we're in or improvements in categories in which he is now decreasing in performance this year. So I was excited about him hitting the ball harder. Now he's hitting the ball softer. Excited about him hitting less ground balls. Now he's hitting more ground balls. I was excited about him hitting more fly balls, and now he's hitting less fly balls. So yeah, it seems like everything's kind of gone backwards this year. Very unfortunate for him because
Exactly.
we know his potential for sure. My slightly alarming statistic player is another infielder in the NL Central. This guy was actually on a hot streak, but has really come back down to earth, and that is Nolan Gorman of the Cardinals. One of the few young pieces in the Cardinals organization. He's kind of been hit or miss over the past couple of years, but he's shown flashes of greatness, but not in his last 20 games, because in his last 20 games, he is hitting 057 with a 248 OPS. And that's including today, in which he was 0 for 4 with three strikeouts. But heading into Sunday, in his previous 19 games, which are the stats I can find for the most part, heading into Sunday in his previous 19 games, out of 178 qualifiers, his slugging was second lowest, and average on base percentage and OPS was the lowest. Also, his out of 148 hitters with 250 plus pitches seen in the span heading into Sunday, his expected slugging was sixth lowest, and his expected batting average and expected WOBA were both the lowest. Overall, including today, his strikeout rate has gone from 34% to 46% in this span. It was 42% in this span heading into Sunday, and out of 178 qualifiers in the span heading into Sunday, his strikeout rate was the second highest. Also, his whiff rate in this span heading into Sunday was 38%, and out of 148 hitters, his whiff rate was the third highest. Particularly, his problems have come on two strikes. His called strike and whiff rate on two strikes has gone from 26% before the span to 36% in this span. And out of 214 hitters with 60 plus pitches seen on two strikes heading into Sunday, Gorman's called strike and whiff rate is the highest. And then it is not just a lack of contact thing. When he does make contact, it does not seem to be the right kind of contact. Before this span, only 15% of his batted balls had launch angles of 40 plus degrees. And in this span, 41% of his batted balls have had launch angles of 40 plus degrees. Out of 291 hitters with 25 plus batted balls in this span heading into Sunday, his percentage of batted balls with 40 plus degree launch angles was the highest. And that is not a good thing because he is 0 for 15 on those batted balls. And that is not far from what you'd find on league average results with batted balls of 40 plus degrees. They are normally very non-competitive batted balls. Also, Nolan Gorman's sweet spot rate before the span was 46%, and in this span, it is 13%. And out of
Wow.
and out of 273 hitters with 25 plus batted balls in the span, that sweet spot rate is tied for the lowest.
I was gonna say if that's not the lowest, then who is doing worse?
Yeah, both him and Winker have 38 batted balls in the span and 5 batted balls in the sweet spot zone.
Just Jesse Winker?
Winker, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Jesse Winker. So yeah, Nolan Gorman has had trouble hitting the ball and he's had trouble putting the ball in the right direction. And that is why he is getting a
slightly alarming.
All right, so that does it for slightly alarming. And now we will go from the lows to the highs, where we are talking players or subjects that have been outperforming expectations with our Sunday, June 30, 2024 edition of How About That?
He's striking out less, walking more, and he's also making better contact.
Turning into a strikeout machine just out of nowhere.
He's been excellent all around this year.
And he is getting a
How about that?
Yeah, so this might just be the NL Central episode because I am talking about another NL Central team, not either of the two that have already been talked about. Shout out to Brian Butler, our good friend, who put me in this direction today. Jonathan India has been hitting very well for the Cincinnati Reds for quite a while now. He's been one of the best hitters in the league for a month plus. Since May 24th, he is slashing 380, 469, 580, 593, 1062 for a 194 weighted runs created plus and 2.0 FWAR. He's also doubled in each of his last 8 games. Among the 1/6 qualifiers over the span, Jonathan India ranks 2nd in OBP, 11th in slugging, 5th in OPS, tied for 5th in weighted runs created plus, and tied for 4th in FWAR. So he's been a top 10 hitter, or top 5 hitter in terms of results strictly in the league. He is batting .463 in this span, which is quite a lot, but his expected batting average is .331, and that ranks 2nd among the 178 hitters with at least 100 plate appearances in this span. So, even if he's batting very high, it is justified in some way. Before this span, he had an average exit velocity of 86.4 miles per hour on the season. And in this span, it is up to 90.1 miles per hour. So he's hitting it 4 miles per hour harder on average. This has increased his hard hit rate from 29.7% before the span to 48.2% in this span. It's gone up nearly 20%. Before this span, 40.9% of his competitive swings were at least 72 miles per hour in bat speed, which is the major league average. In this span, it is up to 51.1% of his swings that are at the league average rate. So his bat speed has increased, and thanks to that, in part, his squared up rate on batted balls has gone from 39% to 58.8%. So that has gone up 19.8% in this span. Before the span as well, just 13.6% of his batted balls were hard hit and in the sweet spot. And in the span, it is up to 30.6%, the 5th highest rate among the 257 hitters with at least 50 batted balls throughout the span. And last but not least, this is something he's been doing all year, but has continued in this span. His chase rate is just 15.6%. That is tied for the 2nd lowest among the 239 hitters with at least 150 outside pitches seen since May 24th. So Jonathan India, last year, around this time last year, there was a lot of talk about him kind of having to play for a right to stay in Cincinnati, right? This is a team with a lot of young infielders coming up. Noel Marte just came back from his 80-game suspension, and people have been wondering where, Jonathan India fits team going forward, but he's playing his way, into making sure that he continues to have a place on the field at Great American Ballpark.
Yeah, Jonathan India.
How about that?
But we are going outside of the NL Central for the first time today. I am talking about, and I've done this, I've done a similar how about that like this with this team actually a couple years ago, where I'm not really even looking very much at the results at all. I'm just looking at the underlying stuff, and that is Tyler Soderstrom of the Oakland Athletics, who's been absolutely hammering the ball, and he's been getting good results, but not necessarily the great results that he should be
Not
getting.
how about that results.
Yeah, not how about that results. For example, I think in his last 18 games heading into Sunday, he had a 907 OPS, which is, good, but nothing we're gonna necessarily rave about. But what we have to rave about is what he's doing under the hood. In his last 18 games heading into Sunday, he was hitting 258 with a 299 expected batting average and slugging 561 with a 731 expected slugging. And out of 135 hitters with 250 plus pitches seen in the span, his expected slugging was third highest and expected WOBA was fourth highest. And part of this has to do with him just generally making more contact. His strikeout rate has gone from 40% before the span to 21% in this span. And his whiff rate has gone from 36% to 31%. And particularly on two strikes, his whiff rate has gone from 48% before the span to 24% in the span. So his whiff rate on two strikes has been cut in half. His average exit velocity has also gone from 91.2 miles per hour to 94.7 miles per hour. So he's hitting the ball harder by an average of 3.5 miles per hour. And part of that has to do with just how he's swinging the bat. Just literally, his average bat speed has also increased from 73.3 miles per hour to 74.1 miles per hour. So almost a full mile per hour difference in bat speed. That is much more significant than the numbers would suggest. Also, out of 135 hitters, Tyler Soderstrom's average exit velocity ranks sixth. Along with that, his barrel rate has gone from 10% to 20%. And out of 89 hitters with 50 plus batted balls in the span, his barrel rate is the third highest. And his sweet spot rate has also gone from 35% to 43%. So along with hitting the ball harder, he's hitting the ball at more optimal launch angles. And that is most significant with fly balls. His fly ball rate has gone from 17% before the span to 41% in this span. Out of 89 hitters, his fly ball rate is the third highest. That explains a lot of why he is succeeding with getting barrels. And part of that has to do with his average exit velocity on fly balls. He also has the fifth highest average exit velocity on fly balls out of 89 hitters. Tyler Soderstrom, he is maybe not getting the elite results, but they could be coming. He is hitting the ball really, really hard, albeit I will maybe balance this out by saying he could be pulling the ball a little more, but I think that's much less of an issue than if he was hitting the ball soft or not making a lot of contact, because he's doing everything else right. He's striking out way less, hitting the ball harder, hitting more fly balls, hitting more barrels, and it's why he is getting a.
How about that?
All right.
So it is time for our, what is the seventh installment of Savant Trivia?
Correct.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. So it's a visual one today. So hop on the YouTube if you're not there already. But this one is not going to take as much as screen sharing work. You're going to actually be the one sharing your screen on this one.
Okay.
This is a single picture that you will be looking at for the entirety of this one. So, Chris, don't if you're on Savant right now, don't do anything on it because there's a certain page you can't go on. So a few weeks ago, Baseball Savant added a new page called StatCast Metrics Context, which shows some of the stats that are, known on Baseball Savant and shows what the league-wide numbers are on these stats. And, it shows, for example, like barrel rate, hard hit rate, blast rate, whatever. It shows like what the league averages are on balls that are in this and balls that aren't in this. So I did some Photoshop work and covered up which one is which. And I'm going to have you try and match up the stat with the league numbers that go with them. I send you the picture. It should be in your email inbox right now.
All right. Well,
So yeah, you're gonna go through these. There's 6 of them, and you're just gonna figure out which one is which. I would say give your answers when you have all 6 locked in, and you can just kind of go through them.
yeah, so okay, so should I pause right now?
You don't have to pause, but just share your screen at least.
All right. Let's see if this works. All right.
There it is. So that is yeah, that's what we're looking at. I don't know if you've seen this page at all before.
Yeah, so yeah, we're just giving we're just gonna give the audience a little bit of a chance to gander before I give my answer, because yeah,
If
I'll
you want
probably
to play along as well, you see the word boxes on your right there. Well, I'll give you a hint. One of these should be a gimme. So you could see
okay.
the percentages. You could see the batting average, slugging, WOBA, xWOBA, and hard hit rate on each of these metrics.
That is fair. That is fair. All right.
So
Let
like one of
me
these, one of these is like on barreled balls versus non-barreled balls. One of them is hard hit versus not hard hit. One of them is like squared up versus not squared up, and you've got to figure out which one is which.
Yeah, that sounds good. I will off recording kind of determine the 6, and then I will share my findings. All right, so we're back to the Savant trivia. I've put my thought into it. I hope you have as well. And if you don't, if it took me probably 3-4 minutes to try and figure out what I'm doing here. So feel free to pause if you have not yet determined. But shout out Above Replacement Radio YouTube channel.
Mhm.
But yeah, so number 1, I feel like has to be barrel, because that is a league average of 7.8%, at least on batted balls. I know the barrel rate league average pretty well. Also, 100% hard hit rate. That's going to give it away. And then when it's not a barrel, it's 34%. So that means that it doesn't necessarily have to be. It's not the end all be all for hard hit balls, but it's the end all be all for
Yeah,
hard
not
hit.
not every hard hit ball can be a barrel,
Yeah. So
is what you're
number 1, I'm
saying.
going barrel. Are we revealing answers for each guess? Or are we
I'll
gonna?
go. I'll do it at the end.
Yeah, sounds good. So 1, I have barrel. Number two, I determined. Yeah, number 2, I believe I determined was was a blast. I could take that back, but I believe I determined number
That is what
2.
you said.
Yeah, number 2 is a blast. Yeah, just because the percentage makes sense, and the fact that it's 99.9% hard hit, when it is a blast, that does make sense to me, and how there could be a couple outliers that would make it not 100%. 3, 3 was or 3. I know 4 is sweet spot. Or no, 4 is hard hit, excuse me. Yeah, 4 is hard hit, 5 is sweet spot. Just because I know those percentages, and 4 is just obvious because it's 100% hard hit.
Yeah.
And
Every hard hit ball is a hard hit ball, and 0% of not hard hit balls are hard hit balls. So yeah, that's I mean, yeah, the percentages, we do have a general understanding of the league-wide hard hit rate. I will say I took this picture like 2 weeks ago, so some of these numbers are very, very similar now.
Yeah, yeah,
The one that
and
I will confirm you did get correct right now is 4, because I mean that one is a jet giveaway.
so then that leaves me with 3, which I believe is squared up. And then because I guess the slugging discrepancies make a good bit of sense, and also squared up percentage being 18.5% also makes sense. Um, and then 6 would leave me with fast swing. I think that's because for me, it's because the hard hit discrepancies make a good bit of sense, but also the hard hit discrepancy is larger than the result discrepancy. So that's why I think it's associated with just how hard people are swinging it. So to review it, 1 for me is barrel, 2 is 2 are blasts. Uh, three is um 3 is squared up, 4 is hard hit, 5 is uh sweet spot, and 6 is fast swing.
Is that what you're locking in with?
That's what I'm locking in with.
All right, Chris, you went 4 for 6. Do
Ooh.
you know which two?
Which 2? So I believe I got barrel. So I had to have gotten barrel, hard hit, sweet spot rate all correct. The other 3, I could see me getting either one, any of those 3 wrong. Did I mix up fast swing and squared up?
That's exactly what you did.
Hmm.
Yep, 3 and 6 are swapped, but other than that, you got it right. Blasts is correct. Um, yeah, the league average squared up rate is 62%, which makes sense because like the leaders in that are like Luisa Rice, Stephen Kwan.
Yep.
Like it
Yep.
doesn't, it doesn't require a hard hit. It definitely helps, but hence why like the batting average discrepancy. Well, I guess it's pretty similar, but yeah, 61.9% for the league wide squared up rate. Definitely pretty high compared to the others. And then yeah, 3 is the fast swing rate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
That
you know
is
what? Those are the 2 of the 3 newest stats. So
right.
the classics you knew.
I knew I've been studying for quite a time, but this
Hmm.
the saying about the old dog. There is that. So gotta get used to these to these new numbers, these new age analytics that are coming onto my screen. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, no, very good game. I think it was fun to speculate. And
It's
yeah,
fun. It's also just fun to see. Like, I mean, I love this page because it's like it shows why this all matters. Like, why
yeah,
why do we care about heart rate? Well, look at this, right? When you hit it hard, you're hitting 484. When you're not hitting it hard, you're hitting 217.
right. Yeah.
Right? Why do we care about sweet spot rate? When you're hitting in the sweet spot, you're hitting 577. When you're not, you're hitting 192.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
when we cite, because these are all, these are numbers that we cite in our how about that's and our slightly alarmings. And, it shows that there's a reason why we search these specific numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So like when I was talking about, Cody Bellinger's low maybe had a lower sweet spot rate last year, but like or how
Hard hit rate.
yeah, hard hit rate, you know, I know he hit over 300, but that was that was not supposed to happen. Yeah, that's not supposed to happen based on the results on those types of batted balls that he was hitting. So, yeah, I mean yeah, that's how it is. That's why we look at the underlying stuff because
Hmm.
anyone can tell you that a player is doing well, but you need to go under and be like, why are they doing
We're telling
well?
you why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, so yeah, that shall do. Yeah, anything more before we wrap this up?
No, that is all I got. Another fun round of Savant trivia. You are on the clock for next week.
Yeah, I will make sure to yeah, I have no excuse not to bring it to the table next time.
Yeah.
I'm fairly open for scheduling. But yeah, so yeah, that shall do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and want to watch the conversation as it happens, or view some of those stats, I was trying to find what they were. Go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. We also have playlists on there, digital shorts. The playlists include guest interviews. We've had Jeff Passan, Chris Rose, Sarah Langs, Mike Petriello, Mark Simon, Foolish Bailey, among others on this podcast. We have a little bit of a rich history. People are starting to be impressed by our episode numbers. So there's a lot of ARR lore out there,
Way too
including
much.
as fun as, but we've got a whole history series out there. We've got some good guest interviews that are worth listening to and are pretty evergreen. So go and check those out. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Deonta, and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Kern, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we will be talking all the happenings of Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.